Nothing out there could ever stop me from chasing after the way you love me, keeping me up 2 cups of coffee. Baby, you make me feel so lovely. I keep on running, no, I should've wanted I keep on falling right into your thought, I can't get you off my mind. So sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy. Sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy. Oh, what a rush each time you catch me chasing after the way you love me. Color my life up like confetti. Baby, you make me feel so lovely. I keep on running, no, I should've wanted I keep on falling right into your thought, I can't get you off my mind. So sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy. Sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy. Sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy. Sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy. Nothing out there could ever stop me from chasing after the way you love me, keeping me up 2 cups of coffee. Baby, you make me feel so lovely. So sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy. Sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy. Sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy. Sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy.
Love it how you love me electric, like you do. Love it how you love me electric, always you. Love it how you love me electric, electric. I love it how you love me a lot, love me a lot, love me electric. Baby, keep the light on for me, I'm coming home. Know I got you forever wherever I go. I feel like I'm high. Oh, and I wouldn't change the way you got me jumping through hoops. All the wishes in the world and I wish for you. I feel like I'm dying. Oh, and I found heaven in your eyes. Tell me it's all mine, holding on too tight. You're like a neon sign in a starless night, showing up so bright. Can't get over how you talk to me, like I'm all you ever gonna need. Seeing colors that I've never seen. I love it how you love me electric, like you do. Love it how you love me electric, always you. Love it how you love me electric, electric. I love it how you love me a lot, love me a lot, love me electric. Wired in the moments like I'm walking on air, tripping over roses every time that you're there. I'm losing my mind. Oh, and I'm hot over the moon, you know that you got me good. I'm not even mad, I need you more than I should. I feel like I'm dying. Oh, and I found heaven in your eyes. Tell me it's all mine, holding on too tight. You're like a neon sign in a starless night, showing up so bright. Can't get over how you talk to me, like I'm all you ever gonna need. Seeing colors that I've never seen. I love it how you love me electric, like you do. Love it how you love me electric, always you. Love it how you love me electric, electric. I love it how you love me a lot, love me a lot, love me electric. Like you do. Love me, always you. Yeah, you love me, electric, electric. I love it how you love me a lot, love me a lot, love me electric.
Hello and welcome back to our second day of Art or TV here from the studio. And I want to thank you for the yesterday's show and all the people who were writing so many comments on the YouTube or Facebook accounts. And if you like, do it tonight as well. And I will say you heartily welcome to And to my co-host, Ludwig Möller, the founder of Moving School. And Ludwig, how was your day after this show yesterday?
Yeah, the echo all night in my ear, but today was sunny, so it was like, wiped away, and we're ready for our second show tonight for Moving Stories. And this is a very special show tonight because there's a very special friend joining us from far away as Dubai. And this is Professor Melodena Stephens.
Guten Abend.
Great to meet you again. So it's 10:15, right, in the night in Dubai?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And is it hot or cold, rainy, or what is it?
Oh my gosh, it's hot and humid.
We give us a little bit of that because
I am sending you all the nice positivity from here.
What have you done today, Melodena?
Oh my goodness. Well, today is actually the start of our weekend. Friday, we begin the weekend here. So it's Friday and Saturday. Enjoying myself. Getting prepared for tonight.
Yeah. Can you tell us something? What will your speech about tonight?
So I want to talk about entrepreneurs and the role that they can play in making a better world for us. So just very briefly, maybe some inspiration for that.
Thanks a lot. And Ludwig, we have another guest. Yeah?
Of course,
here.
Yeah.
Oh, Deésse.
Hey.
Hi. Deésse, you're muted.
Oh, hi. Yeah. I recognize.
Hi, welcome you in our quarter. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Ludwig, Deésse, you know her longer than me. Tell us something about Deésse.
When she was like this big, so from her first day of life. And having her near my heart since then. So she's my goddaughter, and today she will sing, but I don't know if that really is working because maybe it's.
We will try. But
okay, yeah.
Hopefully,
it's we are kind of crawling along to the heights of our show. Last night we had really a huge echo problem. Today we had a misunderstanding in bringing the music in, but we will try our best. Actually, Deésse has a great voice, and she's playing the piano with it. He trained that. And yes, you are at this moment a student, right? In a little little city near.
It's a town, okay.
What are you studying?
But it's a very little town.
What are you studying?
Sorry?
What are you studying?
Social sciences with the focus on intercultural relations. Yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting. And maybe later on in the talk after the speech of Melodena, we can hear something from you as well.
Yeah, of course.
Not only your voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I will say a little some more sentences to Melodena. She's a professor of innovation management at the Mohammed bin Rashid School of Government in Dubai. And her specialties are strategy, innovation, branding, and entrepreneurship. And Melodena, you have served for many years also in the corporate world. Can you tell us a little bit about this background? I mean, in which companies did you work? What is your experience of that kind of world?
So that was at the beginning of my career. So I finished management and I got straight away into the corporate world. I worked in, I think, 3 organizations. Citibank for a short period of time, doing my internship. Then I moved into another company, which was on consumer durables. And this was when women weren't really working in the corporate field at that point in time. And finally, I worked in the Tata Group. So I headed up a department. I did a couple of international joint ventures. And then as life takes you, I moved to Taiwan, gave up the career, and entered into academia.
So academia is not a career for you?
Oh, yes, very much so, but different career.
And very successful one. We came to know each other when she was actually a professor in Germany at the Karlshochschule in the south of Germany. And I had the special honor that she took moving school as an example for her students to work on strategies for like turning a nonprofit organization into a startup business. And that was very, very great experience, having different teams in her course who were kind of competing, setting up, some concepts and so on. And she is kind of, we're very close in maybe teaching methods, because her approach to teaching has been also to facilitate an interdisciplinary and co-created problem-solving competency with a global mindset. That's written in her CV, and that's really close to what we'd like to do. Melodena, why is interdisciplinary work so important in studying?
I think COVID's a great example. We're more connected in this world. We tend to define ourselves by nationality, but at the end, I think we're first and foremost human. And if we don't understand each other's perspective, this is why we have so much of tension. We lose the feeling of being neighborly towards other countries or other people. So it's very important, if we want to solve all the big problems the world faces, that we have an interdisciplinary, intercultural perspective and put ourselves in other people's shoes, because you don't understand their perspective until you walk a little bit in their shoes.
Mm. And you were actually the first female Indian dean in this German university. What was your experience as a woman in that kind of position?
Oh, so when I came into Germany, I think it was the beginning of the refugee crisis. So it was an interesting experience. I remember in my little town, I was perhaps the only brown person there. And people were very nice. But when you come in, you're a little bit nervous at that point in time. So my experience in Germany was extremely positive. People opened their hearts and they embraced me in. But I still had to learn a little bit about the culture. So it was 3 years of learning about a culture that I knew nothing about. I had an extremely positive experience. I made very great colleagues who are now even friends. And I think Germany will always be my home a little bit, no matter where I am.
Wow, thank you very much for that. And it's good to hear, because right now we have also discussion going on about people of color in Germany. And also Deésse, as you saw, as a Black woman, can tell some about that. So we are happy that you have a good experience for that. You also consulting governments and institutions. So at this point of the pandemic, when we in Germany, hopefully, moving out of it, will the world be the same after the pandemic?
Oh, that's $1 million question, isn't it? I mean, there are things I wish would go back to normal, but I don't know what normal is any longer. It's going to take a lot of hard work for us to, first of all, I think it's the safety. Even now, you see a very small percentage of the world is vaccinated, and this is creating problems. I come from India, and most of you may be aware of what's happening in India. It's a very sad situation when you see that, and a lot of it is because majority of the population was not vaccinated. So I think in this struggle, if we're not all in together, we are as weak as the weakest country and the weakest population. So It's a hard one because we see there's a lot of differences there. I think we've learned about how we can connect remotely. So this is the wonderful thing going forward. We're never really far away. So there's some positive things I hope will move forward. And there's some things I really wish would change because I miss physically meeting people. It's been the second year, and I think it's a little bit difficult living in a little bit of fear.
No, that's true. I think.
How can we understand the living at the moment in Dubai? We hear it that people in Dubai, a lot of them are vaccinated at the moment.
Yes, a large majority of the population. So the government was very quick in getting several vaccines. We had the Chinese Sinopharm, the Pfizer, and the AstraZeneca. And so everybody, like I finished my 2 vaccines, so that was extremely proactive. So we were fortunate, but I think also the population generally complies with trying to do it because the message is very clear. If we all don't do it, then, you know, the virus will spread.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Okay, so before you start your presentation, then we try out the music, or can we do that?
Sure. Do you want me to start first or music first?
No, just first the music. You can prepare yourself and concentrate, and then see you later.
See you later.
So Deésse.
Okay, I will try my best to share the screen.
Yeah, we're doing this today, not live.
Can you see that?
Yes, I can see it.
Is it on full screen?
Yes, we can start if you like.
Oh, now there's written something like, oh, sorry. Oh, no. I'm so sorry. Okay. Have you heard something or
At
not?
the moment, we don't hear anything.
Okay, maybe now. Can you?
No, it's not.
No.
The music is not coming over it.
Oh, okay.
So
I'm
maybe
sorry.
we try it after the speech. If you
Yeah,
we'll
try. Yeah.
Yeah, that's always a situation that could happen. So maybe we can start with the speech of Melodena and hear you later on these. And yeah. So
okay, great. So can you see my screen?
One moment, yeah. No, I cannot see your screen at the moment.
Okay, let's see what's wrong. It says it's on, so I don't. Let's try again.
Just once more.
Is it good?
Yes, it looks good.
Okay, super.
Okay.
All right.
One moment. Yes, we are on there.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. So it's an honor to be here, and I hope everybody's well. Thank you for coming in. The talk is on entrepreneurship, and I call it Candles in the Dark, because I think every founder, every entrepreneur is like a little candle lighting up our world. A little bit about my background, and I think Ludwig was very kind enough to explain. But my passion for entrepreneurship also comes because I've written a book on social enterprises, and I call it Business with Purpose. I believe we can do a lot of good if we create businesses that actually try to solve problems that the world is facing. So first of all, let's just take a quick look and Think about maybe the COVID situation around the world. As you can see, there's a lot of deaths and a lot of cases, and countries are struggling. So first of all, maybe just a little heartfelt prayer for those people who have lost someone or people who are struggling being by themselves. And I hope that the situation gets better. So having said that, I thought I'd just start with the small background of what I will be talking about. So I want to look at the roles entrepreneurs can take, and then I want to examine what's in a founder's heart, look a little bit at the entrepreneur's journey, and I'm going to use the hero's journey, looking at pitfalls, but mostly from Joseph Campbell, and the light the entrepreneur can create. So there are 3 roles an entrepreneur can take. And the question we have to ask ourselves is, what kind of change maker are you? Very often we want to do good, but sometimes we do good, and in the long term, it doesn't turn out just as good. So being good, wanting to do good is kind of difficult, especially in today's world. And one of the things I teach is wicked problems. So a lot of the problems we solve are complicated, complex. You can't easily untangle them. So you think you solve one problem and something else comes. I want to feed somebody, so I give them, I don't know, free food, but then they become dependent on the free food, and then they forget how to work. Is that solving a problem or creating another problem? And this is one of the constant questions we have to keep asking about doing good. Now, in the change makers, the first type of change maker is the person who does go with the flow. And I think this itself is hard. Being an entrepreneur is just difficult, period. I don't think any entrepreneur has not had sleepless nights. It's very difficult to be not only responsible for a business, but for the employees that you have. So going with the flow, what do I mean with that? I don't mean what the pigeon is saying about yield, defer, integrate, adapt. I do mean sometimes what I mean with going with the flow is you take a proven model and maybe you try to make it better. So if it's about recycling, it's about maybe, I don't know, anything that you want to do, you take something that works, find a niche and make it better. So this is what going with the flow is. The risk is a little bit less because you can learn from other people's mistakes and you can see what works, what doesn't work. You can also kind of think of how you adapt to another market. And this is what I love about us being global. You can look anywhere in the world. You can go to Africa, you can go to Asia, you can go to Europe. You can see something that works and say, my country needs that. Why don't I do that? So I love one example one of my students gave about sugar clinics, and I think it was Mexico. And I thought it was such an amazing thing that someone said, okay, here's people with a lot of diabetes problems. We don't need them to go to a hospital. What we need is specialized clinics only for diabetes. And they changed the model by making it a lot more affordable so they could encourage people to come and get help early on. Is that something that you can use somewhere else? Of course. If you find another country that struggles with diabetes, why can't you make sugar clinics there? So that's the nice thing with the go with the flow entrepreneur. They're always looking around to see what other people are doing and then saying, how can I take it? How can I use it and make it better? But then we have the second type of entrepreneur, and I like to call this the activist. Now, what does the activist do? The activist goes out and tries to find like-minded people and tries to create momentum to make change. So they're a change maker that not only looks for like-minded people, but gets them to go and influence others. They change behaviors. Now, those of you, anyone who knows, has children or watched or had problems yourself, you realize behaviors are things that are difficult to change. We say, I want to go to the gym more, I want to eat more healthy, I want to give up smoking, whatever the behavior is, you've got these things and you want to change them. It's not that easy. So the activist actually works on changing behaviors, right? And I like one example, which I think it's not about us versus them in these kind of things. It's about bridging the gap. I think sometimes we think there's always two types of groups of people. A lot of this is about understanding and empathy and trying to get people to find a middle ground. So when we create, or when we're an activist, we're trying to be a change maker that builds bridges. And this is important, especially in today's international world. So one example that I love is the story of Patagonia. Now, when they formed Patagonia, I think they were focusing like on mountaineering equipment, but somewhere along the line, there were these extreme sports people, and they realized it was so important to protect your planet. They went to the point where not only did they donate money for the planet, but they will also make sure that whatever they produced was recyclable. They campaigned, for example, to make sure there were protected territories, so much so they were an activist even to the point of elections. And what's interesting is Patagonia actually controls 9% of the outdoor industries market. So they were extremely popular. And from targeting like-minded people, it became extremely cool to wear something from Patagonia. It was a statement that you supported the environment, whether you did or you did not. And I think what was interesting for me is just recently they decided, even though it makes a lot of money for them, they would no longer incorporate corporate brand logos. Because a lot of companies were saying, oh, we want to also add our logo with you. But maybe they didn't necessarily believe in that. So an activist is about changing behaviors, believing in their cause, and not willing to budge. And this takes a lot of soul, because sometimes it might mean you give up profits to do what you think is right. So you're extremely value-driven. And this is hard to do in today's world, because money is important, but it's also extremely glamorized. You see this, in the media, where we're always talking about the lifestyle of those people who are rich and famous, who've created these large businesses, how much money they're earning. It's always in the news. And I think that's not really what money only can do, right? It can't buy you happiness. And I think values are extremely important, how you build your business with values. The third type of entrepreneur, and I think this one's perhaps the one that really goes and shakes the tree. I like to call them the disruptor. They're someone who goes against the tide and changes systems. They believe impossible is possible, right? They're in it in the long game. So this is not a short journey. It's not, it's not something you can do easily. And I want to give you an example. So I'm taking you to India. In 1968, there was a gentleman called Dr. Bindeshwar Pathak, and he realized that India had a problem. And the problem was we had a caste system. And there was a group of people at the bottom of this caste system called the untouchables. Now, they were called untouchables because their jobs were to clean toilets. And I'm not talking Western toilets. I'm talking toilets that may be like a hole in the ground. And they used to pick up the waste from these toilets and dispose of that. Because this is a dirty, smelly job, of course, nobody wanted to touch them. Now, this gentleman was born in the highest caste. If you look at the caste, it's a social order system, and he belonged to the highest caste. But somewhere in his life, when he was young and he was growing up, he saw things that touched him. He saw a young boy being almost about to die, and nobody would take him to the hospital because he was an untouchable. He saw a young bride being married and crying because her life was about cleaning toilets. So he wanted to change this. And this picture, actually, he's the gentleman wearing white with the scarf. He actually wanted to change the system, but he was empathetic. He actually did what they did, which was he helped clean those toilets the way they did. And he realized the solution was to build toilets. Now, it's not that other people didn't think about building toilets. Everyone knows about building toilets, but there's a problem. The Western toilets required a certain pressure of water, and most places in India doesn't have that kind of pressure, so they don't work in a majority of the situations. He understood that. He was not an engineer, but he built a toilet. All right? So he created his own model of a pit toilet that worked. He led by example. He changed the status quo. In fact, in 1993, he had a law created that was against manual scavenging, which is huge. So that's how much he believed in his cause and was able to make a difference. He started focusing on sanitation and water and energy, so he started expanding on that and even worked on empowering women. So the picture right on top is a picture of him with a lot of widows. So there's a custom in India when a husband dies, a lot of these women who are widows will then go and live in one particular city, and then they're dependent on alms, or money people donate. He wanted to change that. He wanted to empower them, to let them relive their lives in terms of earn economic independence. So he did a lot of work there. The picture at the bottom is India's first public toilet, 1974. And when he created it, people said nobody is going to use this toilet because he didn't have a funding model. And this is also important. If we're dependent on charity to do good, very often what happens is the money runs out and you cannot do good. He didn't want to do that. So what he created was a system where he would get the land from the government, but he would charge people to use the toilet. And the place he built the first toilet was in one of those extremely poor places. And people said, are you crazy? Who's going to pay money for that? And he said, no, I think if I keep it clean, what we will do is hire them to clean the toilet and pay them if necessary and make sure that it's done well, but charge them also so they will respect the toilets better. And what he found out was 500 people used the toilet and paid for it. So created a funding model that worked, you know, so that's what I love about disruption. And today, 50 years later, he is India's largest non-government organization, built 1.5 million toilets with this unique funding model, liberated and rehabilitated many of those manual scavengers that were there from the beginning, and many, many international accolades. So you see a picture with him with the Pope and lots of letters from the UN and newspaper coverages and awards. He's won plenty and plenty of awards. Now, was this easy? It's extremely hard. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. Now, just on this question of toilets, you'd go, oh my goodness, this is probably something that's not really relevant. But you know, the United Nations says that 2.2 billion people lack water, which is very linked to also sanitation. And 4.2 billion people don't have access to safely managed sanitation. That is huge. This is the Sustainable Development Goal number 6. And I think it's so important we look around. There's a lot of problems that we don't have, and we take for granted that it's a privilege that we have, but maybe there are many other people who are suffering because it's not easily available. And something as simple as a toilet, which we use every day. Right, so I want to talk a little bit about the founder's heart. So we know there's 3 types of entrepreneurs, but founders all have something very similar. And not everybody is a founder, and that's okay. Everyone doesn't need to be one, because we need people also to support the founder. But what makes them different, or what are some of the things that we notice about them? So first of all, I think it's what's your heart really saying? The journey of a founder is extremely tough. And I like that little picture on the side with the graph, because it shows you, you know, it looks like everything's going well at the beginning. And then it's like a whole series of, you know, hey, I'm happy today. Oh, no, things aren't working. Hey, I'm happy today. Oh, no, things aren't working. And this is really the life of an entrepreneur. It's constant problem solving, right? But at the back, their heart is whispering and is burdened with a problem that they want to solve. And it's so consuming that they're passionate about it. And they have the perseverance to continue. So you must have a passion and a perseverance to continue. I think when you're doing good, you must also remember the principle of do no harm. And if I ask you this kind of question, what do you see over here? Most of you would say, well, I see, I don't know, a piece of cloth wrapped up. It's actually a football. And what I loved about this was in one of my visits when I went to Kenya was a bunch of boys who had made this football. I don't know how to do that. I don't think if you gave me pieces of rags and things like that, I'd come out with a perfectly formed ball. But they didn't have a ball, and they improvised. So I think one thing that founders do is improvise. But more importantly, we want to do no harm. So I want to tell you again about this trip to Kenya. I noticed, so this is in a school. So as you can see, it's in the middle of, it was in a place that was a little bit remote, difficult for me to reach. But on the journey over there, I saw a lot of people walking in the market. So these kids are in school. They're all wearing school uniforms. But the adults were wearing Western clothes and beautiful Western clothes. So I asked the taxi driver, I mean, why is it everyone says that they're poor, but they're wearing all these lovely Western clothes? And he said, well, it's very interesting that you asked that. For years, people have been donating their clothes to thrift shops. And they have been bringing them here by container loads to Kenya to sell. And because they are brought in by the container, that means in tons, they are cheaper than the clothes in the market. So people would buy the donated clothes. And when they stopped going to the market to buy clothes from the retailers, then the plants shut down. When the plants shut down, then the factories that use cotton shut down. When they shut down, they stop buying from the farmers, and that's why everybody is poor. So I think this is an important lesson, right? When we do good, we don't want to do harm, but that requires us trying to understand the intentions were good, but were the actions leading to the outcome that we wanted and the impact that we wanted? So that's another important thing that a founder must do. So the next thing that I think that's important is follow your heart, but take your brain with you. And maybe while you're at it, take your ears too, because a lot of this is about listening and understanding and seeing. Because if you don't go to the people that you're impacting and understand what it does to them and their communities, you're not going to really be able to do good well. So this brings me a little bit to the hero's journey. Right? So Joseph Campbell wrote a lot about the hero's journey, and he said, well, in all the movies and all the stories and all the fairy tales, there's this typical thing where there's a hero. He's very reluctant to go on this journey. He has a call for action. He refuses, but finally he says, yes, he goes. And then his journey is this whole series of where he's fighting against evil. He almost is defeated. He gets unexpected help, and how he actually rises victorious. And I think an entrepreneur's journey is very much like that. You have a call, and it's this motivation to do good or to change the world, or, you believe in your idea so much that you decide to take the plunge. And this motivation is partly driven when you experience something and you learn to empathize with others. And empathy, I think, is an important part of doing good and being this little candle in the dark. You need new perspectives. And again, it's about bridging us versus them. So, so important, right? You need courage to accept the call. I think we all know that there are problems around the world, but most of us don't have the courage to want to do something different. Or maybe our courage is a little bit smaller, where we want to do something different and support it. So I think it's just understanding what courage means. In this case, there is fear, but it still means accepting the call. And I love this quote from Goethe, which says, be bold and mighty forces will come to your aid. That's what courage is, to take fear and to go ahead and move forward and realize that somewhere along the line, help will come. And I want to go back to the story about Dr. Pathak. When he decided to start his work, his family was very upset with him. He had to sell his wife's jewelry because he was borrowing money just to make toilets because no one would want to buy them. He wrote a lot of letters trying to get grants, but the government kept changing, and so the money never actually came. So he spent many, many years trying to do something with very little appreciation, but he had such a strong heart for the people he wanted to serve that the courage of doing the right thing helped him get through. And today he's internationally known. He's invited by governments all over the world to come and help, but it took time. And during that time, there were times he said he was so depressed, he didn't know what to do. But having that courage, maybe even have, I trust God, but, believing in God is something also that might help you move forward. So the perseverance to continue, different people have perseverance. And this comes from the strength of either your belief or the people that you surround yourself with, your friends, your family, or even the people that you impact. Sometimes the people that you impact, just seeing their face and the difference that you make gives you that perseverance to continue. So the one thing I want to say is, if you're a disruptor,
Okay, maybe we lost the connection to Melodena. Melodena, can you hear us? We have to wait a moment. She's frozen. Okay, Melodena, if you're back, you ended with this chart. Yeah, maybe you have to log out and come back. Okay, this could happen all the time. And we wait, Ludwig, we wait till Melodena is back, logging in. And very interesting, yeah, speech she's telling. I'm very fascinated about all the topics she's looking on. So
yeah, it's very, very close to what actually happens with entrepreneurs.
yeah,
Is she calling again?
yeah, she's calling again. I'm bringing her back. Yeah, yeah. So
If you have questions already, you can also write them in the chat, and we will have time afterwards to discuss that.
yeah,
Also,
Melodena,
if you have
please open your presentation, or is it finished? Moment. Now she's back. Yeah. So in a few seconds we can hear her again. I cannot hear you at the moment. Yeah, we wait a moment. Yeah. Can you hear us? Give me a sign. I see you. Yeah, okay, you can hear us. Okay, I can hear myself now. So, yeah, we are, this is live. This is a live stream. This could always happen. Okay.
can you hear me now?
Yes, she's back. Yeah.
Okay, great. So you have to tell me what slide you saw last.
Yeah. So if you like, you can. Have you finished your?
No, I have a few more slides.
Okay. So please make your slides in full. Yes. So.
Did you see the slide before?
Yes, I see your screen. Okay. So wait a moment. And now you can start and start
so
with
I
this
said,
slide.
well, the entrepreneurs need perseverance to continue. And I think it's like this. I wanted to just say, sometimes we probably need to go not where the path may lead, but go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. So this is the job of an entrepreneur. And that means you will be the light. And when you're the light, you help root other people and help them grow. So that's the journey that you will make. I think that's the end of the presentation, but very simply, to be a change maker, put the light on, create the light, and be the power of the light. So thank you so much for listening. And I'm coming back to the main screen.
Great, thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I said already, it's so close to people's experience in that journey. Yeah, because when I read a lot of books about entrepreneurship or listening to talks, and sometimes it's too far away from the personal reality, you know, and you have a lot of these. You know, cheering up people and maybe not talking enough of the pitfalls or the difficulties people are facing putting up a business. So I like that very much. And so when you are having questions right now, or something to ask, or you have maybe an experience from your business, please write in the chat, or we even have a phone number to call the studio. Can you
I show
put
it.
that on? And you can write it down so you don't forget. Would be nice to hear your voice. So it's the number for Germany 0049, and then it's 157 310 77244.
And you will be here on the phone.
Yes, we have the newest
Modern.
device in black, very designer black. And a question to us to Deésse. Shall we have another try before we go to questions and answers, or what's the story on music?
Deésse was working hard in the background. Deésse, tell us what happened.
First of all, thank you for your inspiring and interesting presentation. Yeah, I was thinking about doing it live because it didn't work out. So, yeah.
Oh.
No, I'm very how do you say? I was not prepared to do that, but I will try. I will try my best.
There are so many songs with try. I'm sure it has also to do a lot with entrepreneurship. Because
yes, we're so excited.
Yeah, who is not trying could never fail.
Yeah.
So
do you want me to start right now?
If it's okay for you, so Melodena can make a break, and after your song, and we can talk about this fabulous speech we heard before. So if you like, you're
okay.
Yeah. So we are happy, and on the stage tonight here on Moving Stories, Deésse.
Hey, so I'm going to sing and play Someone Like You by Adele, and I hope you like it. So yeah, let me start. I hope the volume is okay. Can you hear something?
Yes.
Yeah, great.
Okay. One moment. Something was wrong. Okay. I heard that you settled down, that you found a girl and you married now. I heard that your dreams came true. Guess she gave you things I didn't give to you. Old friend, why are you so shy? Ain't like you. Oh, hide from the lies. I hate to turn up out of the blue uninvited, but I couldn't stay away. I couldn't fight it. I hope you see my face and that you be reminded that for me it isn't over. Never mind, I'll find someone like you. I wish nothing but the best for you too. Don't forget me, I'll beg. I remember you say sometimes it lasts love, sometimes it hurts instead. Sometimes it lasts love, but sometimes it hurts instead. You know how the time flies. Only yesterday was the time of our lives. We were born and raised in a summer haze, bound by the surprise of our glory days. I hate to turn up out of the blue uninvited, but I couldn't stay away. I couldn't fight it. I hope you see my face and that you'd be reminded that for me it isn't over. Never mind, I'll find someone like you. I wish nothing but the best for you too. Don't forget me, I'll beg. I remember you say sometimes it lasts love, and sometimes it hurts instead. Sometimes it lasts love, but sometimes it hurts instead. Nothing compares, no worries or cares, regrets and mistakes, their memories made. Who would have known how bittersweet this would taste? Never mind, I'll find someone like you. I wish nothing but the best for you too. Don't forget me, I'll beg. I remember you say sometimes it lasts love, and sometimes it hurts instead. Never mind, I'll find someone like you. I wish nothing but the best for you too. Don't forget me, I'll beg. I remember you say sometimes it lasts love, but sometimes it hurts instead. Sometimes it lasts love, but sometimes it hurts instead. Sometimes it lasts love, but sometimes it hurts instead. Thank you very much. Thank you for your nice comments.
Oh my gosh, beautiful.
Yeah, you were brave to do it in the end.
Yes.
Yeah. It's the topic of tonight's show. Yeah, do it. Do it.
Yeah, just do it. Just do it. Don't think about it. Just do it.
Yeah, and the people out there are so happy that you did it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I tried to talk her into that the whole day, but she's refused the whole day not to do it. So you left your excitement behind. Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, another one later, or?
Yeah, I can do one more song, but then I'm over because there's not enough practice. But yeah.
Come on.
And one other song.
Thank you for now. Thank you for now. And so now it's open for question and answers to Melodena.
Yeah, just a moment, because we show once more the telephone number. Yeah. So if you want to hear more from this, call or write down in the comments underneath the Facebook or the YouTube accounts. Yeah. Okay, and now we come back to the speech. Ludwig, and I want to start because today is it's an important day for me personally, because one company I created was gone. It was about a little toy I produced with two other guys, and they only saw the problems, and we stopped it. And my favorite, there's always I have a favorite, words in Germany. We say, I say it first in German, maybe it's better than I translate it. Alle sagten, das geht nicht. Und dann kam einer, der wusste nicht, dass es nicht geht, und hat es einfach gemacht. Also everyone said it's not possible, and then someone was coming. He didn't know this, and he did it. And Melodena, this was you said so many words in this direction, that people who want to change, who want to make business or want to change their situations, and there were so many words you find, and nice examples. how you can grow by failure, and how important is this, and and what we can learn from it.
Oof. Failure, I think, is inevitable, I think, in the journey of an entrepreneur, right? So over my lifetime, I've created just one nonprofit organization, and I think in 2009, but I'm not your conventional entrepreneur. What I've done is I've gone and researched a lot of entrepreneurs. And I think it's difficult, especially when you're a founding team of 2 or 3, 4 people, and you're the only person pulling the team forward, like in your case, and the others say, okay, no, I've had enough, and this is difficult. But what I've learned is the entrepreneurs who eventually, even the ones that fail, maybe they start something new and they take the lessons from their failure and build something better for something else later on. And they come back and say, well, I use those lessons. It could be anything, how to deal with co-founders who said no, or maybe when this problem comes back in. So maybe that business stopped, but then they took it and built something different, better, bigger. So I'm waiting to see what the next business of yours is that's going to change this whole world.
Yeah, in nearby of the studios, there's a garden called the Beckett area, so Samuel L. Beckett, and he has said something in this direction. If you fail, try again, fail better next time.
Yeah.
Okay, Ludwig, you have some questions.
Yeah, you talked about the hero's journey and also the example you're using of the toilet man. So I'm sure he had also a team, right? So how important is like this one maybe charismatic or driven person versus a team? Are they always have to be together, or are there examples where maybe one was successful by himself? So because many times we look up to single people like Elon Musk or whatever, the big shots, and it's always this one name. But I mean, there are so many people behind him. Or is it really this one spirit, pulling people forward?
So in some of these founders who are like disruptors, they're visionaries, right? So they're the way that they, not only do they have the idea, but they're able to motivate large number of people to follow them. And I think whether you talk Elon Musk, or in this case, even this gentleman who did the toilets, he didn't initially, in the initial days, he did not have a team, but the people who worked with him were the people from the caste he was trying to save. So as he built more toilets, they became his firm followers, and then they helped him continue onwards. So I think it was in that case where he was very much by himself initially. But today, in today's world, to succeed, you need teams, because it's more complicated, And I always tell people, if you're good at marketing, then you probably need someone who's good at finance, or someone who's good at human resources, because you need to manage them. Or maybe even someone who's just good at meeting people. If you're not comfortable meeting people and talking to investors, you need someone who can go out and lobby and get money. So teams are important, but if everyone doesn't believe in the same vision and the same values, you will have problems. So if someone's in for the money, but you are in to change the world, that's going to create clashes with you. And you see that. So one of the things I do with a lot of my students who are starting companies is always say, have an agreement very strongly out where you can buy each other out in case someone decides, it's too difficult, doesn't want it. And it's okay, because maybe they're in that part of their life where family is more important and they don't want to spend, long sleepless nights and work that hard. That's all right. But have those agreements now before. The old days, you didn't need to do that. But today, I think that's becoming more and more important.
Mm-hmm. And so some of these founders I saw, I mean, that they tell me, okay, I'm working 24/7, and usually they do it for 2-3 years. Is this inevitable? I mean, because I don't have the power to do that. Is there no way around that? Is it just a bad organization, or is it just as it is?
I think it's inevitable unless you have a team to sit up and then let you sleep. A part of the problem is even if you're growing and the money's coming in, most companies will end up with one point where they don't have enough operating capital. So the business is growing faster than the cash to keep, invest to make the business grow. And this is normal in a startup life. So you might have problems in the beginning, then start growing, and then you have problems because you don't have enough money to make the business grow. But it's an issue. If you don't grow, then the business dies. So it is a lot of sleepless nights until you can get a professional management company. And this is why a lot of founders are so happy to sell the company at some point in time and say, okay, I'm retired, I'm done. I'm going to take some rest, But everyone doesn't need to grow. See, that was my whole point, Ludwig. I've seen a lot of small family businesses, and I think it's okay. If you're happy with your lifestyle and you're happy to be small, I don't think everyone needs to grow the same way. You could have a small family business, which is a restaurant, and maybe the food you serve is amazing, and it becomes a community space where everyone comes together, and that's your contribution because you bring the community together in your space. That's good. You're doing good, and it's enough for you, and you're happy. So I think that it really comes on to what makes you happy, and do you really need to grow? It's just today's world talks about everyone growing and becoming $1 billion. I don't think that's necessary or feasible for everyone, because somewhere along the line, then you might lose sight of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that answered your question. Did I lose you?
Yeah, of course. Okay, there's some.
So that's interesting. I don't think it's only in Germany. There's a lot of countries where failure is a big problem. The fear of failure is huge. And I think it's only cool to talk about failure when you're successful. So, people who are very successful then will say, oh, I failed a couple of times and things like that. But while you're failing, people are very reluctant to talk about that. And you're right. That needs to change as a culture. I think perhaps this culture needs to start when we're much younger, to take that risks and try new businesses. We kind of assume we have to do it after we finish university or school or something when we're much older. And I think it's harder for us with the responsibilities to have to do it when you're much older. So maybe some of that needs to change. We really need to bring it into schools. I know we do a lot of this in Moving School, but again, we're targeting university students, right? And I think that's a lot more older. We should be doing this at schools and teaching them the steps so they're not so frightened of failing and they know how to take calculated risks.
Yeah, but they're not learning to fail. Yeah, I saw so many students, they at the end when they are in front of their examinations and they fear and, oh God, what will happen if I fail at this moment? And then I ask them, have you ever failed before in any kind of situation? And they no. And learning from failure is very important.
Absolutely, but then I think something's wrong with our schooling system, our whole education system. It's not changed much, I think, for years and years and years, maybe more curriculum, more topics, but the style of teaching, which is, every year and then have an exam and then you promote to the next year. This is the same for how many, I don't know, years, centuries. And I don't think we need this right now, especially if we say the future jobs are going to change. We need people who can create their own jobs and love learning. If they love learning, there's enough knowledge out there, they will pick it up. I mean, of course, you still need labs and things like that, but a lot of knowledge is there. So maybe education itself might need to change. I know some countries are doing that, but we're a little behind the curve, and maybe we start the conversation now.
Yeah, the thing is that in each country, I think there are schools which are a good example, you know, reform schools and have good programs like that. But somehow it's not scaled up by the state. The system is too stiff and reluctant. Do you have any idea why that is?
I don't know. I think it's systemic because, you know, workplaces, they want you to have a certain level of education. So, and then parents want you to get a good job. So they want you to have a certain level of education. And because everybody is getting an education, it becomes competitive. So I think it's what I call a wicked problem, right? So where do we start? And there have been some changes. I know Peter Thiel in USA suddenly said that he was taking bright students from school and he didn't want them to go to universities, and based on their talents would hire tutors for them and then straight away invest in their companies. But he's extremely rich. He was one of the founders of PayPal along with Elon Musk, and this was his initiative, and it's limited to very few students. In my experience teaching, I found out every student has a unique capacity, you know, so maybe they didn't do very well in their grades, but some of them went on to do fantastically well, creating their own businesses or, you know, finding another area that they shine in. So you need great teachers. You need a system that empowers teachers and students. Got to stop treating education like it's a mass product and students need to conform to education. I think education needs to conform to each student's needs because each student is an individual with their own skills and capabilities. So that means we need to really rechange the way we teach. I say that as a parent also and as a teacher. And as a student, I was a student once upon a time. I know I've hated some subjects because I probably didn't have the best teacher to teach me those subjects. I might have been totally different if I had a different type of teacher.
No, that's very true. I think that's really on the point, and that's also my experience, kind of working with students in schools with in areas which low social income or low income families, migrant families. I found that many of them are not fitting in our system, you know, also because of family background, language, culture, and so on. And I found that also this issue of self-confidence is very important, you know, to teach them or to let them self-confident experience. I think that's the starting point, don't you think? And it's not something you can easily teach. It's a long development, right?
You require a society to empower each individual, right? So we come back to that. I mean, some of us are born with such a lot of confidence, God bless us, but there's others that struggle with that and they really need society to lift them up and hold them up and say you're special too. But sometimes we forget. And you asked me this question at the beginning, you know, what has changed with COVID? And I don't know. I don't know what it is like with your places, but my mother was saying in India now, for the first time, neighbors are also scared to help each other with COVID. There's a lot of help happening on Twitter and LinkedIn and all. But the fear is if you help somebody, you might get COVID. So it's an interesting situation. You don't want to be in a society where people don't reach out to help each other. And I think somewhere along the line, little by little, we've become a little bit more selfish, haven't we?
Yeah, that's true. I saw this in a seminar where students cannot see the team, you know, they just see their own needs to go forward or their own feelings they have about stuff. So this thinking of, you know, we are working as a team is not easy for many who also maybe grow up in a single child family, you know, they never have experienced this teamwork. Do you think that's an issue for individualistic societies, or is this also happening in societies like yours, or
I think it happens all over the world. See, so it's easier to make a team with like-minded people, right? But we know teams succeed because they are diverse and different people bring different skills in. And I think we're seeing sometimes what happens is there's a gap between generations. So would you make a team with a 45-year-old and then have a 21-year-old? No, you generally find the team is all 21-year-olds, right? Maybe it benefits from some experience. Or if your approach is to go into multiple countries, how many international people do you have in that? So I think this is a challenging thing. It's not impossible. I see a lot of change when my children were studying. So I was one of those parents who lived in Taiwan, then Germany, then UAE. And I was very worried for my kids because I said, would they meet other people who are like them? And I was very surprised to find there are many children who grow in these multiple cultures, and there are children like that. So it's a question about really talking and exchanging viewpoints. Absolutely right. It's about diverse teams, right? And just that understanding viewpoints. Even though I have traveled all over the world, I have found myself making so many cultural mistakes. And it's so interesting because I assume that I'm pretty multicultural, but because there are so many people who've also traveled around the world, you can't pigeonhole anybody and say, she's Indian, or he's, I don't know, from here, or she's from there. They're not exactly pigeonholed. So the first thing is learning to listen and try and understand. And I know no matter how much I say that, I make those mistakes too. Right?
I don't want to ask all the questions. So if there's anyone in the audience,
I'm always watching the social media, and there are so many positive reactions, but no questions. So if you like to ask something, write down in the comments in Facebook or in YouTube. Or if you like, you can call us here in the studio. You can see the number down below. So maybe it's easier for you if you are from Europe. So there's no so many to pay for. But nobody is calling at the moment. So, but it's a call-in show. So please
I'm just curious about all those people who are listening. Is anybody a founder?
Yes. Where's we have to ask. So please, if you are here in the internet, write down. Are you a founder? Are you thinking about to do something in the next months? Because the pandemic is maybe going down less and brings new opportunities and new ideas. So many people changed their professional lives. Yeah, they worked for other companies and they quit because this pandemic changed their believing of everything, maybe. So if you want to write something, there's the Endhouse production is writing at the moment. I see. Yes, a cultural.
You're a cultural entrepreneur. That sounds so interesting. Wow.
Yeah. But so Endhouse Productions, if you like, you can call us here and tell us a little bit more about your cultural project and what we can maybe learn from you. So if you like, call us.
Oh wow! Okay, from analog to digital. Yeah, that's amazing, and I think that's the whole thing in entrepreneurship culture. Sort of, we call it pivoting, right? You change from one strategy to another strategy, and I think entrepreneurs have to do this quite a bit. A film festival going totally digital. Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of these examples we have everywhere, like this Berlin Design Week we have at the moment, and this all we do now. It's a digital new way to do it, and I'm sure today I was filming with a big company, and the the boss said after the pandemic, so many things they learned from these digital, like Teams or working with all these video conference systems. They will that will change their work. Yeah, and they are collecting ideas from the whole people in the company. What has to be changed after the pandemic? What can we learn? And I'm sure lots of companies do this in the same way. So nobody's calling, nobody is writing something. So this is...
she's frozen again.
She's frozen again, yeah. But she will come back, I'm sure.
To what?
Yeah, Ludwig, you're not frozen. You have...
No, but I have 2 more questions, so I hopefully she comes back.
Yeah. She
Meanwhile, we can have an ad here, advertising, because we have an excellent coaching group from moving school, working or being ready to coach you for free during the design week for like 20-minute slots. So you can, if you go to Berlin Design Week and look for moving school coaching, you can find 9 great people with different expertise, and you can click on a spot when they're available, and then just talk and have an appetizer what coaching can be, you know. And they have different fields of expertise, speaking different languages. And it's a great chance to, you know, if you ever thought about coaching and don't know what it is really, or if you really like it, this is a good chance to try it out. And she is back. Great. There are 2 more questions I have, because these I heard a lot in my seminars, also in personal talks. There are people who say, okay, I want to be active, I want to change something, but I don't know what to do. I don't know where to begin. You know, they have this energy, they know you should not sit back and leave the world like it is. But maybe they think of themselves not to have this creativity to find a cause, a reason. What would you tell a person like that who wants to do something but don't know where to start?
Well, there are 2 options. You can join someone else's cause that motivates you, or still go and get inspired, because like we discussed, I think an entrepreneur's journey is lonely and it's a lot of work. So it's not for everybody, but they always need help. So you could be part of the team if you find something that really works well. There are many ways to do good. I think you know that better than I do, right? So volunteering is one. Immersing yourself in communities. So we do a lot of the design thinking, and that's one way to find out what can be done.
Yeah,
right?
Sure. Yeah. And there's this question following. You talked about the founder's heart, and you said listen what your heart is whispering. How do you know that what your heart is whispering is really your call? Because there's a lot of whisper in my heart.
We hope always in the same rhythm.
I think trial and error, right? You know, when I moved to the Middle East, I'd never lived in the Middle East before. So it was a big change for me. And I had this impression in my head of what the Middle East, most of us do. When you hear Middle East, you've got this impression in your head. But Dubai was not like that at all when I came here. So I was very pleasantly surprised. And I began teaching in the business schools. And I kept teaching them, and I realized all the books were from the West, you know, from US and things like that. And for example, in human resources, the best HR policy says if the situation is unsafe for your employees, close the office, send your employees home because their lives come first. And then I was listening to these issues in Palestine and Egypt and bombs going here and bombs going there. And I was thinking, oh, how does this work in a situation like this? And when I asked somebody, they said, oh, no, we can't close the office because we need to feed our employees. We need to keep it open because if there's no job for them, then all their families will starve. And I thought, this is so interesting. So there's obviously this little gap that's there. And that's how I started working on the nonprofit foundation that I had, which was just about letting people know about the Middle East and collecting case studies, good case studies of businesses, because I thought I needed to change the world. 10 years later, I'm still asking myself, is this the right direction I want to go? And I think the answer now is yes, but there were many times where I was thinking, maybe I heard the wrong whisper too.
Yeah, so it's really like taking up a whisper and just try it out if it brings you somewhere, right?
Yes, I mean, and you'll know along the journey. Yes, Stefan.
and one sentence you had on the charts where follow your heart, but don't forget your brain, or something like that.
Yes,
it's very, very nice. But at the beginning of every idea you are burning, and if there is if everyone says, yeah, that's a good idea, then maybe it's not a good idea, because I remember, if you have ideas, they are special. Lots of people say, no, it doesn't work. Are you sure? And so, but how can I motivate people not to be hyper realistic, or not to be always conservative and check it? Oh no, it's because we can only change the world with unbelievable ideas, I'm sure. But when we must bring the brain back to the heart, at which moment?
So I think the heart whispers first, right? The brain is important because any business needs to succeed, needs finance, right? So even if it's a non-profit, you need money, otherwise it's not going to work. So unfortunately, there's that part of the business side that requires you to be logical, cold-hearted, make ends meet. And then there's the hard part, which is, I'm passionate about it. I want to help people and put that in. So we talk a lot in entrepreneurship about, small successes. So it's not the big win. So you want to change the whole world, but it doesn't start with changing the whole world. It's getting traction, working with small pits, getting evidence, little larger groups, getting evidence. And as that keeps moving, you're learning what works and what doesn't work. And then you've got a robust piece of evidence for those people who are extremely conservative. And the ones who love you, you're holding them in so that you're at least learning what mistakes can happen, because there's so many businesses that launch with, let's say now with social media, you can put everything out over there, get a lot of likes, get a lot of people to hear about you, and then fail spectacularly, right? Yeah. And then it's too late because too many people have heard about you. So it's harder in that case. So I think it's one of those things, you want to be small and conservative until you're sure that it works. And then that's the whole prototyping part, I guess. And then you go and launch big and put that in. It's easier said than done. Because there's an element of luck. I mean, I've looked at so many entrepreneurs, Stefan, and some there's this huge element of luck when it shines on you and it doesn't shine. Right place, right time, market's right, the right people.
Yeah, and at the moment we have this time of, we can call it the century of disruptor. You see everywhere people, they look on a different way on a business, like Uber. Yeah, they saw, okay, there are taxis all over the world. Maybe we can do it with in another way. Yeah, because the people want from A to B and more and more disrupt. I had a speech to a professor in London in a conference, and she said lots of money is going into a bank transfer from people who are working in Europe and transferring money back to Africa or home. This money is much more than every other money is going in these countries. And I said, why there is no disruptor who is taking down this account of payment, so that more money is going into these countries, because this money is very efficient. It's working well because it's going there where it's needed, because you send it to your families and they know what to do with it. So it's not in big institutions, and I'm sure it will change. This kind of money transfers, we see it in so many other parts, such situations. And we hope after pandemic, also in the health system and all, to prevent these kind of pandemics, that we see more and more new ideas.
So I must tell you the story of one entrepreneur that I met, and he was from Australia, and he's a millionaire. And he said the changes he made were very small. He just looked around the house or at small things and changed them. So for example, he found out that a lot of people were stealing license plates off of cars. So he invented a bolt that you couldn't easily open and steal. And he made millions on that. And he said that's what he did. He didn't go and focus for the big fancy changes. He looked for the small, tiny little things. Oh, your window doesn't close properly. How can we make it close properly? You want to keep the door open. What could make a better, door stop? And I thought that was also interesting. It is very trendy right now to look at technology and to look at these fancy things like the Ubers and things like that. But sometimes change can also be small and just as impactful.
No.
Indeed. And,
we are talking in the context of the Berlin Design Week, so probably a lot of people in the arts, design, culture are watching. And this is a very special industry because it's a lot of them is supported, by public funding and so on. What are your insights for this group of people, who couldn't work also for a long time now? Is there a business model for them they can follow? Are there any ideas how they can come out better out of this crisis? Because a lot of times they're depending on others, or is this just the way we view cultural workers?
Oh, that's a hard one, because I think it's a very individualistic career, creativity, right? And it doesn't mean it cannot flourish. I think it can, but you need to create a following, and this becomes the most important thing. I think, how do you get your voice out there, and how do you become a disruptor in the creative industry so you have people following you because you are passionate and you have a message to convey? And I think that becomes, in one way, a little bit easier now because everything is online and you can go global. There's also what they call as the NFT, so you can even sell your work creatively right now, which is an interesting concept coming up into the marketplace. So I think it's really important now to tap into the global marketplace and put out the culture there. There are many people now who are tired of, the Me Too kind of stuff. We're looking for unique voices, and I think Germany always had that. That was my experience when I was there, and Berlin especially rocks in that scene. So I think it's important that maybe more people understand what it is about, and you can reach and touch them right now. So I don't know, maybe all the cultural people need to join together and put together a movie project or create, something interesting that you could go and send across the world that will become like a brand ambassador and tell people what is Germany and German culture about and what does it stand for, the voice, the message.
Yeah, great point. I think we will talk about next time also when you come back for the last 3 days of the Berlin Design Week. We are doing a broadcast about courage and hope. and then you will be back, and we will talk a little bit more about that. So thank you for your time tonight, and also for this coming time, because you're very busy. You have a lot of responsibilities, a lot of subjects you're working on, and yeah, we're happy to have you tonight.
Pleasure being there. Thank you.
So Deésse is back.
And Deésse is back, and I saw she was working very hard, but she's just muted. So please unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm back.
Her voice is back, and yeah, we are still happy that you worked so hard in the background to make something live happen again at the end of the show. So thanks a lot for that. And maybe Ludwig, at the end, because we have new people are watching at the moment, so more and more people are joining. Maybe the other conferences are ending in the Berlin Design Week. And just at the end, we want to tell who is our musician tonight. And Ludwig is the best who can say hello and bring Deésse to her last song.
Yes, so Deésse has African origin, and her father is from Burundi, and her mother from Cameroon, right?
Yeah. Cameroon, yeah.
And the interesting thing is that first I came to know her mother. She was a student at the University of Kassel in architecture, and in my student church, and visiting and working with us. And when she gave birth to little Deésse, what could she do? She was in her studies, so she had to take her with her, or to all these seminars and stuff. So Deésse has already an architecture degree by being 5 years old.
Building with little bricks, wooden bricks.
Yeah.
And I always admire, her path, because it's not easy then to grow up also with a single parent later on. And she was, Deésse, you were kind of the only, or maybe with just one other kid in your school that you could reach higher education, right? To go to
yeah, I don't know about the other students, but the students in my class, I think me and another kid were the only one, yeah.
And how many?
In primary school, I'm talking
about. How many migrant children you had in your class? Was it 18?
Yeah, in primary school there were a few. Most of them came from Turkey, but then later on in college, gymnasium, there were others, but not no people of color. I was the only one, so yeah, in college, and also in my primary school, yeah.
Okay, so just shortly, because that's kind of an on theme right now, what was your experience as a Black girl in school? Or also, now in university?
Excuse me?
And also now in university?
Okay, in university I can't say a lot about, because it's online and I haven't met my kommilitonen, my other
students.
The other students. But I know that there are a few people of color in my Fach. I'm sorry, my English isn't that good. Aber yeah, what I study, there are a few, yeah. And in primary school, as I already said, there were not a lot of people of color, but still there were some migrant children, I'd say. And in college, I was also one of two people of color, and then there were some people from Europe, migrant children. Yeah. And my experience with, for example, racism was not as bad as other people that have experienced it. So I'm very glad. I'm very thankful because, I, of course, had some situations, but it wasn't like on a daily. I was pretty much accepted. And in school, I haven't really been confronted with racism. Yeah.
Great. So, and now you're studying social work. What is your aim when you're finished? How would you like to work later?
I could imagine working in a migration bureau. So with migrants, to help them to go through this whole procedure, but also I could imagine to work with children or families in general that come to Germany, for example, in forms of projects or something like that. I could imagine, and maybe also combining it with my music. But we'll see what the future holds.
Yeah, that's what I was encouraging you, because I think music and social work is really great thing to go together. You like singing from childhood on, right?
Yeah. I also have a few videos of me singing when I was little, but it was very awful. But yeah, I liked it even when I was a child. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, so let's hear how awful your voice is.
Yeah. Okay. Now we'll play and sing "Defying" by Alicia Keys, and enjoy.
Okay, but one moment, because we want to finish this tonight show, because in 7 minutes in Dubai it's midnight, so we must send Melodena into bed, into her weekend. But before we end, Ludwig, tomorrow there's another show a little bit earlier than today. It's around 7 o'clock Central European time. So Melodena, if you like, it's a little bit earlier. What kind of guests we have tomorrow?
Yes. Tomorrow, Professor Alf Rehn, he is Finnish, teaching in Copenhagen, in Denmark, and he is talking about between the shallows and the deep blue sea, under and over solving problems in design and innovation. And Alf is also a very cool guy to listen to. And because he didn't want to spoil his Saturday night, he said, let's start early. So you can come to our show at 7 o'clock Central European time and then party afterwards.
Exactly.
Okay,
and now, thank you very much for joining us. Also the people outside and writing so many comments, and so see you tomorrow. And now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome the last song for tonight. It's from Deésse and performing Alicia Keys.
Yes, thank you. Maybe like that, so you can also see my piano. Okay. Some people live for the fortune. Some people live just for the fame. Some people live for the power, yeah. Some people live just for the games. Some people
People think that the physical things define what's within. I've been there before. Their lives a bore, so full of the superficial. Some people want it all, some just want nothing at all. Fitting you, baby. If I ain't got it, you, baby. Some people want diamond rings, some just want everything. Everything means nothing if I ain't got you, yeah.
So this was a short one, but I hope you liked it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I won't.